thank you guys so much for coming here and coming out to support me and Nickaan's TED Talk. And thank you so much to the TEDxLAHS team for providing us this great opportunity to be able to present to you guys. And we're really excited you guys are here.
Yep.
So without further ado, my name is Francis Ruan. I'm a senior at Los Altos High School.
I'm Nickaan Heidari, and I am a junior at Los Altos High School.
And today we're going to be presenting to you about the phenomenon known as the done list. But without anything else, I want you guys to run a quick thought experiment. So if you're on your phone, I hope you put it down and just think about really quickly 3 things that are the most important to you. So your top 3 priorities and the things that you hold dear to you. So if you give us guys like 10 seconds, you can talk to your friends or the person sitting next to you about the 3 things that you find important.
Feel free to collaborate.
Or don't collaborate. And so maybe you thought and you were like, well, my family's pretty important. And I love my mom and my dad, right? And maybe you thought academics was really important. We go to Los Altos High School, so it's really important that we have, a great subset of academics. And maybe you didn't put this word, but maybe you have some type of demands, right? Something that is orientating your life from societal expectations. Now, I want you to understand that there is nothing inherently wrong with your family, your academics, and your demands, right? These are all important things. But there is something missing from this diagram, and that thing is detrimental, and it's really important that you understand that you are missing from this diagram. And so I want you to understand that because of this, because we push ourselves away from, our priority list and we only prioritize the things that don't even make us happy, right? Like doing exactly what our family needs us to do or what school wants us to do or what we should look like, right? The societal expectations that we forget to, care about ourselves. And because of that, it makes high school honestly a bad experience, right? We're so worried about what needs to be done next. We're so worried about, that our SAT score isn't high enough, that our GPA is not the same as our peers, that we forget to even consider our own feelings, right? And so over here is a quick little diagram of, perhaps a very complex idea of happiness here, right? Where happiness is at the top and we're not so happy in high school. And so maybe you work really hard and you study really hard and finally you get a little happier, right? You get to college. Maybe a prestigious one, maybe not, right? It doesn't really matter. Maybe that's what you think is going to be making you happy. And next, maybe you're married with kids, right? And then maybe that's what your concept of happiness is, and that's where it resides. And perhaps if you're a junior right now, happiness to you is getting an A in AP Lang. So all these things here are materialistic possessions. All these things here are things that can gratify you for maybe just a quick moment, right? But none of these things are going to be long-lasting, long-term. I want you to understand that this diagram here has a major fallacy with it. Everyone teaches you that the end goal of your life should be happiness, but I think that there's something very wrong with that statement because I believe that the end goal of every day should be happiness.
So knowing that the end goal of every day should be happiness, there's something very common that a lot of us have noticed with the culture around high school. So there's this really interesting statistic I want to show to you guys, and that is that 80% of students are reported to be unhappy. And looking around the room, I don't see much reaction to that statistic because it's normalized. But why is it that so many students report to be unhappy? Well, we could just take a step back and look at some of the things that we prioritize, which is from our thought experiment. We see family, we see academics, and we see demands. And all of these things are great, but they fall under the category of a fad, which is an intensely and widely shared enthusiasm for something, especially one that is short-lived and without basis in the object's qualities. A fad is basically a pleasure. For example, if I work really hard and I get a good SAT score, I might feel that pleasure for about a day, but then it wears off. It's not sustaining. And before we get too deep into this talk, we should define that happiness is most definitely not the same thing as a pleasure. A pleasure is short-lived. It's achieved with substance. It's experienced alone, and it's highly addictive. Happiness is long-lived. It's not achieved with substance, and there's no addiction to happiness. The problem is we are chasing fads. We are not chasing happiness. So sort of the golden fuel of pleasures and materialistic possessions is money, right? So this study shows us annual income correlated with reported levels of happiness. And we see at the beginning, yes, money does equal happiness, right? But around the $80,000 mark, that line flattens out. So we know that after a certain extent, money is not associated with happiness, these materialistic possessions are not associated with happiness, but why are we still revolving our days around the types of goals and the types of tasks that lead us to these materialistic possessions?
So just like what Nickaan just talked about, we prioritize our days around things that don't contribute to happiness, right? We continue to revolve our days around things that don't bring us joy. And how do we do this? Well, it's something called a to-do list, right? It's something that maybe you guys all have, or maybe you keep it in your head, right? Either you do it through a calendar, you do it through a planner, or you have a literal to-do list to do, right? And the point being is that a to-do list can be really helpful. It can help you keep track of the things that you need to do. It can help you keep track of, what you have done, right? But the problem here is that a good to-do list, well, takes a lot of time to create. If you ever sat down and wrote all the things that you need to do, like take out your dog for a walk, text your mom I love you, all these things will take a long time to create at least a good to-do list, right? And the issue with a good to-do list is that it's intimidating. If you look at a long list of things that you need to do in a day, it's a visual representation of your stress. It's a visual representation of anxiety and the things that you haven't done yet, right? So it's almost literally scary. And the issue is, and the question that we ask is, really, like, have you ever really gone to the bottom of one of these lists? And maybe you've accomplished your to-do list, but there were still more things you probably could have done, right? There was more things that you could have learned. There's more things you could have done to take action. But I don't want you to think that way, because it's in our human nature to understand and want to learn more. It's in our human nature to desire and to want to learn more things. The thing is that there are an infinite subset of things that we can learn. There are infinite things that we can do on this planet. And that's why our to-do lists become never-ending. And so here's a quick personal anecdote. And it's not like anything super crazy, but I just want you to understand, and maybe this story relates to you, but my whole high school career, I have been touch-based on the idea of a fad. I have been so succumbed by the F, the A, the D, the family, the academics, and the demands, right? Demand-wise, right, I have to behave and act a certain way in front of different people. If you've ever code switched in front of your mom or your dad or your brother or your friends, you understand that you have to accompany yourself to change in order to be accepted, right? And academically, maybe you think you need to get a certain SAT score or you need to have a certain grade in your class in order to feel accepted and not like a failure. And maybe for your family, maybe they have a career goal in mind for you that they push down your throat, but you don't want to do. And because you love your family and because they're important to you, you continue to chase that goal because that's what's important to them, right? But I want you to start thinking about what's important to you. And this isn't just a talk about follow your passion. We want to give you a literal plan and take action for how we can start changing these things.
So something that a lot of us struggle to realize is that you'll never get on top of everything. There's an infinite amount of things you can do, and the truth is that you're never going to finish it all. And I know, like, that's kind of scary, and some of you might be thinking, like, Nickaan, like, aren't you supposed to be inspiring us? Like, what are you saying? But the truth is that is the most inspiring thing you'll hear all day. By understanding the fact that you're never going to finish all the things that you have to do, you can just take a step back and drop it. Now, don't just take this from me and Francis, take this from a very prominent Zen master, a Buddhist Zen master, Jayu Kanet. And she taught the philosophy to her students of making the workload so heavy in the hopes that he or she would drop it for the student. And this philosophy may seem backwards in a way, but in fact, it's so powerful because it allows us to understand that by acknowledging the fact that we'll never get on top of all of the work that we have to do, we can find some sort of relief. I mean, a lot of us go through something that I like to call productivity debt. You wake up in the morning and you think of all the things that you have to do throughout the day. And if you don't finish this long task of things, you're not acceptable and adequate as a human being. But the truth is that you don't have to do anything to justify your existence on this planet. Maybe you need to do it to justify your wage or your salary, but not for these existential reasons.
Wait, Loki skipped a slide. But essentially, on this slide, it was supposed to be a diagram of a brain. And in this brain, it was a very, very simple diagram where it was split into 3 quarters. I know you can't see any visuals right now, but just try to picture that your brain remembers and chooses to remember the things that you have not complete. And the part that you have actually done, the things that you've done in your day, your brain chooses to not remember, right? And so this devastating phenomenon is known as the Zeigarnik effect. And why is this important? Well, because your brain chooses to focus on the incomplete. And how can you be happy throughout your day if that's what your brain is so focused and pressed about, right? And when your brain doesn't realize all the things that you've done, it's exhausting. When you don't appreciate everything that you've done, when you don't appreciate the small things that compile through your day, you start to get tired. You start to feel like you're not enough, right? And so what this compiles in is a negative feedback loop. If you've ever taken any type of science class, you might be familiar with this. It's really simple. It has 3 components. It needs a trigger, an action, and an anti-reward. And the trigger could be maybe that you don't feel productive one day and that you want to take action by writing down a to-do list. And within this to-do list, you might be thinking, wow, I feel so good. I feel so on top of it. I feel like I'm in control of my life, right? And that's the anti-reward. It's the self-sabotage disguised in reward. And you might be thinking, well, what's the self-sabotage? As this list continues to compile and this loop continues to loop, it gets crazier and crazier. The list gets longer and longer. And that feeling that you were in control of your life, that feeling that you were on top of everything becomes quite ironic because it's the opposite, right? As your list gets longer, you start to feel out of control. You might be thinking, okay, nice, we have a negative feedback loop, so how do we fix it? And so right here is quite the opposite of a negative feedback loop. It's a positive one. And this one has the same exact components. It has a trigger and an action, while the reward is actually something that is long-term, something that is going to continue to bring you happiness, right? And so if we took the opposite of a negative feedback loop to get to a positive one, and the negative feedback loop was represented by our to-do list, then we would only simply need to take the opposite of a to-do list. Right? So what is that? And that lies in the fact of the done list.
The done list. Let's see how our done list fits into the positive feedback loop. So first, there's a trigger, right? And the trigger is a shift in perspective. Instead of focusing on the things that we have to do, we're instead focusing on the things that we've done. And this leads to the acknowledgement of our achievements. So when writing a done list, at the end of the day, for example, we're writing down all the things that we've done throughout the day. It can be anything from brushing your teeth to doing your homework to walking your dog. And this can help to build a sense of fulfillment. And with that sense of fulfillment, we build momentum day by day, like a hamster spinning on a wheel. It speeds up. And what you'll start to realize is that you've done a lot more than you think. Our brain tends to forget all the hard work that we've done, and hopefully by using the done list, you can acknowledge all of your hard work.
And so all of this really is just a small shift in mindset. Nickaan and I could have gave you this talk in about 45 seconds, explaining what a done list was and the benefits. But we wanted you guys to understand and identify for yourselves that you aren't really prioritizing you, and that you've been shaping your day-to-day on so much of what hasn't been done, that you forget that you are someone who is accepted, someone who is loved, right? So I want you to stop being so worried. If you have a math test coming up, if you have an exam or any type of stress that's holding you back, I want you to realize that it's not that important, okay? I want you to understand that you don't need to do anything, like what Nickaan said, to justify your existence on this planet. And in fact, it's not that you haven't done anything or maybe you guys think you guys are lazy now and that's okay. It's in fact that you have already done so much within your day. And we can show you this through a little demonstration and a challenge that we have.
Okay, this is good. We have time for this challenge. So I want you guys to take out your phones. You can take it out now. I know some of you guys already had it out. And I want you guys to navigate to the Notes app and just take about a minute and write down everything that you've done up to this point throughout the day. I know it's only like 12 o'clock and you guys have only been up for about 4 or 5 hours, but you'll realize that you've actually done a lot more than you think. So let's start in the morning. Maybe you brushed your teeth. Maybe you took a deep breath when you woke up. It can literally be anything. And once you guys are done, I want you guys to look at the list and feel that sense of fulfillment for all the hard work you've put in up to this point.
Maybe you texted your mom, "I love you." Maybe you went on a walk this morning. You had a healthy breakfast. Maybe you did your skincare routine. Maybe you said hi to your friends. All these things are things that you have done in your day. And so as you're writing, I'm going to quickly, quietly talk about some of these things that are going to compile as you keep doing this, right? So as you know, this is a positive feedback loop now that you're doing. You're understanding that you are accomplished, that you are someone that has done a lot of things within your day, and hopefully that this isn't the only time that you write a done list, right? Hopefully you go home and maybe you write at the end of tonight what you've done. Maybe tomorrow you'll do it again. I know that I don't write a done list every day because I feel stressed out and I'm still, so absorbed by the fad, right? The F and the A and the D. But I hope that for the majority of you guys that this continues to go on, and that I hope that what you've seen so far is something that you actually enjoy, right? That looking at your done list is a visual representation of no longer your stress, but your accomplishments, your sense of fulfillment, right? And hopefully, like what Nickaan said, this builds momentum. I want to just quickly sum up our talk if you weren't listening, right? And I want you to understand that there was 3 components. We wanted to identify the issue, which was that you don't prioritize yourself. We wanted to think about a solution, and we wanted to apply it, right? And so the way we do this is by, you can keep your to-do list, right? That's not an issue, as long as you balance it off with a done list. So today's talk, I hope, wasn't too confusing. I know for a fact that Nickaan and I will be, adding this TED Talk to our done list.
Yep. Yep.
And we really thank you guys so much for coming, and we feel really appreciated.
Thank you.